Today on the table I have the SIG 2022 and the FN FNS. You will see a price split of about $54 currently. The SIG being about $54 more than the FN. Specs, the SIG is a heavier firearm. They're almost completely identical in length. The SIG is just slightly longer. Width, they're almost completely identical. And height, they're almost completely identical. The SIG is a touch longer. Now the SIG, because of the grip angle or the magazine design, I'm not really sure which one, but you do get shorted 2 rounds of ammunition. The FN, you get 17 plus 1. The SIG, you get 15 plus 1. When you purchase the firearms, the SIG, owner's manual, range flag, trigger lock, and a second 15-round magazine. You get a very nice case. Very quality. This is exactly what I'd like to see a case look like. It's got a cutout for the firearm and everything. The FN, the case is not so hot. But you do get a changeable back strap, and you get 3 17-round magazines. So that's pretty cool. Also, the quality of the magazines. The FN does appear to have a much higher quality finish on the magazine. The magazine itself just feels better. It's kind of hard to explain without without having you play with it. But like the SIG, when you push it down, the FN, if that makes any sense, like the metal comes off as cheaper or tinnier, something like that. I don't know if that's actually a thing. It's just something I noticed. Controls, your FN, mag release from your normal shooting position, very hittable. I always complained about how hard it is to push this button, and then some in the comments was like, hey, that's not for a slide release, and I argued the fact, but it's on both sides and it has texture. Upon further inspection, he's right. This is just meant, and it's on both sides for pushing up. Like the texture is only on the upside, and just how it's designed. Like, that's what it's for. So it's really only a slide stop, which is stupid because it doesn't even have a ledge on your sights where you could like hook it on your clothes. You can't do that. Now the SIG, on the other hand, controls, your decocker's a bit far forward to hit. I struggle with it with my thumb, but I can get it from my normal shooting position. Now this doesn't have a safety, it's got a decocker, which is what I prefer. The FN doesn't have a safety, but you can order these with a safety. I'm pretty sure. I'll annotate it in if I'm wrong. But anyway, the decocker from your normal shooting position, doable, but it's tough. Mag release, it's also tough. I can get it, but I'm struggling. It's just easier for me to cock the firearm slightly and hit it that way. Slide release, I have no idea why not every single firearm ever made doesn't have the slide release right here. This is amazing. I love this a lot. And it'll make your magazine changes go a lot faster. In, release. And say for whatever reason, this fails or it's not working, it's got a ledge where you can hook it on your clothes and easily rack it. Very easy to do. The FN, this requires 2 hands. I mean, you can push this down, like this is just some sort of hypothetical scenario, like slides lock to the rear, somehow insert your magazine, maybe magic or something, then push it down. But they designed this firearm to where you don't have to use 2 hands, but they want you to use 2 hands, and I don't like that. I'd rather have my pistol to where I could just use 1 hand, where I could just drop the slide release, put in the magazine that way, but that's not how they want you to do it. So whatever. Accessory rails, they both come with them. Very nice. Trigger brake. Single action mode. SIG brake's very clean. Double action mode. Still brake's pretty clean. Your reset. Right there. It's kind of long, but it's not too bad. And then you brake again. FN. Brake's pretty clean. I really don't see an advantage to either one. Maybe the SIG and single action mode brakes slightly better, but I'd actually expect more out of a handgun that actually has a single action mode. Now the SIG, the trigger itself, I do like. This is all metal. The FN, it's plastic. And SIG must have had some sort of a communication failure with my distributor, because it said this was supposed to come with night sights, but it don't. It's just got conventional sights. They are nice, bright 3-dot sights, which is cool, but I'd much rather have them as night sights. But seeing as it's like every manufacturer uses the wrong sights, like FN did it too. Where did I scar this up on? Button? They use the wrong sights. They're all one color. There needs to be a different color front sight. And this one's especially bad because the front sight's bigger than the rear sight, so it's going to screw with your depth perception, so you could misalign these. It's very possible. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So this doesn't come with night sights, so that does suck. You're going to have to put them on there yourself, but then you can actually put on the right ones. It does have a loaded flag, which, whatever, I really don't care about that. A lot of people argue, you know, because then you can feel in the dark if it's loaded, which makes sense. Now your SIG is a double single. So you can either have the hammer back, get a very nice crisp trigger pull, or you can decock it, which is how you should carry it, unless of course you're addicted to methamphetamine or something. But anyways, you decock it, so on your first shot, really long trigger pull. But then all your follow-up shots, you got a really crisp trigger pull. And without having to move your finger a lot, it's a lot easier to stay on target. You can really send shots and not have a problem. Now the FN is just a striker fire, which whatever. You do get kind of a long trigger pull. But the more you move your finger, the more likely you are to come off target. The FN is ambi. Slide stop on both sides. The SIG, the magazine's cut to be ambi, and if this is like the 320, which I'm pretty sure it is, you can switch this mag release over to the other side, but then you're missing your decocker and your slide release. So basically, if you're all left because you're just not right, you're kind of screwed. You left-handed weirdos should probably buy a different firearm. Like the FN. Now I really hate the SIG. Not because it's a crappy firearm, because it makes me question things about the FN that I didn't notice before. Like the slide release, that's pretty awesome. And I like hammer-fired firearms, so I'm currently looking for like some sort of 9mm combat pistol. These are both too big for me to carry. I mean, yeah, I know there's some people out there that'll carry a Deagle on them, but it's just not me. I can't do that. So these would be considered combat firearms for me. What I'd really like to see, these two firearms have a baby. Because I love the styling of the FN. Even that little nub of barrel that sticks out. I don't really see an advantage or disadvantage to having it, but it just makes the firearm look good. The serrations, even though I'd never use the front slide serrations, because if you're going to do a press check, you shouldn't, because you can make a malfunction. Just rack it and look at your magazine, see if you're missing a round. And you don't need to open the chamber up and possibly have a malfunction. But anyway, so because I've been looking at a combat pistol, the only thing that I really found that I like, that's got a hammer, so far has been like the Beretta 92. Kind of leaning towards this now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd much rather have it made by FN with FN styling. Like, I love the texture better on the FN. Just how the firearm presents itself as a whole, aside for the hiccups that I've already talked about. How it takes down. I mean, you just flip this lever and it comes apart. This takes down, it's terrible. It's slightly better than a 1911.
We're simply going to move the slide barely forward till we get that lined up, and at the same time, I'll be pushing on the opposite side, and then that pin will push right out. The pin comes on out easily. You kind of work him out of there. Slide forward, pull the trigger, releases the slide, off it comes.
Basically, if I was gonna purchase one of these two firearms, what would I pick? And removing my like for hammers, like let's say I'm just looking at these as they are, man, it'd be really hard not to pick the FN. This has been my favorite firearm so far, but it does have its hiccups. Again, no slide release, no ledge, so you're basically doomed to doing this two-handed, or you gotta be He-Man to be able to push this down, which would even be much harder if there was ammunition inside the magazine. You get a crappy case. Now, inserting the fact that I love hammer-fired firearms, actually I would go with this. I would put on the proper night sights it should have. I love the fact that it's a double single. I've always been a fan of hammer-fired firearms. Now, if you're new to the firearm world, or even if you're not new but you're looking at some sort of pistol and you don't have a whole bunch of experience on it, I strongly recommend you go with something like this because there's less controls. It's simpler to use. It's already got night sights on it. You could run this right out of the... You wouldn't have to change anything. The most you get is a tack light. There's a certain learning curve with hammer-fired firearms that just takes a while to learn. In the end, you will be better with a hammer-fired firearm because of the advantages of the trigger and how it's all set up, but it takes a while. If you just want to be able to run it, and if you don't shoot a lot, I would really recommend, just a standard striker fire, no safety, no extra bells and whistles, as simple as possible. Keep it simple, stupid. They say that for a reason. You start complicating things, if you don't master the system, you're likely to run into problems. If you shoot a lot, this is what I'd recommend. When you master the system, you're going to appreciate it a lot more than the FN. But thanks for watching. Leave in the comments below which one you would pick and why. Funny answers only. Don't forget to subscribe.